Hi friends, thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I hope you liked the other week's video where I talked about some habits to have your healthiest and happiest year. If you haven't watched that, please be sure to check it out. I'll link it over here. But this video today is almost a continuation of that, but the opposite side. These are things I think you should stop doing in the new year. I've got 5 habits to leave in the past. I hope you do some reflecting and think if these are things you do. I think they're very common. And I'm someone who really likes to prioritize like being optimistic and thinking of the good habits that you do want to include. But I think it's actually really valuable to also think about the kind of negative things you tend to do, and just that awareness of them can prevent you from doing them in the future. So yeah, today we're covering some of those bad habits to leave in the past. Let's get started. My first one is to stop idolizing people. And for this, I'm talking about all kinds of people in your life or in your surroundings. So of course, like celebrities or very large public figures, I think it's great to be a fan, but I think a lot of people can tend to idolize them in a way where we think of them as perfect and can do no harm. And then sometimes they do something kind of bad and people start hating on them, cancel culture and all that. But then just think of them like normal people. Normal people make mistakes. And we're all like that. We ourselves make mistakes, so it'd be wrong to assume that other people, these people we idolize, typically can't also make mistakes. Even people in your own personal circle, I think we tend to have maybe these friends or acquaintances that seem to have such perfect lives. Oftentimes it can be crushes we have, we see them from afar, not even knowing them very personally. We think of them having this perfect image, all the things we want them to be, and go after them really blindly almost. See, I'm talking about crushes, talking about maybe friends or just like people who, like I said, seem to have everything together. They probably don't. No one really does. And I'm also talking about like role models, like parents, for example. I was thinking for myself, like I love my parents, but even them, they have some really bad qualities sometimes. It's not that they're horrible, evil people, but we all have things that don't come naturally to us or certain experiences in our past that translate to bad behaviors in the future. I think it's just important to stop idolizing people, stop having these fantasies about people you may not know that well, or even if you do know them well, notice their flaws. Even in sometimes abusive relationships, this can be helpful to just remove that kind of filter over them where we make excuses and all that kind of stuff and just recognize some people are not that great in some ways. And I think it's great to have role models, but the more important thing should be to recognize what traits about them we actually like. Maybe someone's really determined, maybe someone's really thoughtful. And so just noticing what we actually appreciate and taking a part of them rather than the whole of them, because chances are there's something they aren't so great at. We all have some downfalls to our personality. We're all just real, imperfect human beings, and it's really important to remember that. My next one is to stop being wasteful, and this one I'm talking about almost all material goods. Try to bring your reusable bags, bottles, even takeout containers. That's something I kept trying to remind myself to do last year, but I'd always forget. But if you're in a restaurant, bring your own little container in your bag, whatever. Especially if you're someone who always kind of has leftovers, just have that packed, ready to go, so you don't have to get the takeout container the restaurant will typically provide. Connected to that too, always save your leftovers. That's like my hugest pet peeve ever, when people just throw away their food or like leave their food at a restaurant. Like, you can eat that later. Please eat that later. And regarding food waste as well, just always have the habit of checking your fridge, making sure you're using things before they rot, making sure you're shopping according to what you actually plan to make, and just kind of like having ideas of meals throughout the week to utilize what you do have. And another thing too, clothing. Please stop buying these almost single-use outfits. There's so many occasions I feel like people tend to just shop for that single day, maybe like a rave concert outfit or maybe a wedding party outfit. Like, these are outfits you can hopefully reuse for different events, but I think a lot of people like to have a dress or whatever for that one day. You know, they're gonna take a picture of it. They don't want to be an outfit repeater. But outfit repeating, there's like nothing bad to that. That's what most of us do, and that's what all of us should be doing. So just normalize that. Just make sure everything you buy, you'll get at least a good handful of uses out of it. And if you do need to get rid of it, make sure you donate it, give it to another home. And also try to avoid buying fast fashion type of products just because they're typically less quality and you'll probably have to get rid of them a lot quicker. Their lifespan overall is just a lot shorter. And last thing to keep in mind when being less wasteful, just remember that you don't always need the newest, greatest thing. You know, with phones and a lot of technology, especially maybe a laptop, maybe like headphones or whatever, there's always new products coming out like every season of the year, and I feel like people trade off their old products like so quickly, even when there's like absolutely nothing wrong with them. Like maybe the new one's 1% better, but like, is that really worth the whole investment in this new thing? It's just better for the environment, less things going into landfills and creating pollution and all that. But it's also good for yourself to, you know, save money, buy things that are hopefully gonna make more of a difference and you actually need a little bit more. Next one is to stop caring and stop shopping for your image. This is kind of related to the wastefulness one, but this is more so talking about buying things that are luxury or name brand, things that often just get hype because of who they're made by. The whole idea of luxury and name brand products is so interesting to me, and I hope to do a video on that in the future. But basically, I think a lot of people do, at least subconsciously, buy things for the image they create. And of course, a lot of times these name brand products are very unique, and I get wanting to invest your money in something that you really, really like. But just question yourself if it is a good investment, if you are buying it because you actually really like it, or if it's somewhat associated to this idea of having wealth and coming off as looking expensive. Hopefully they are quality products, but a lot of times, again, it's like, how much better is it really? Again, preaching how much I love thrifting. A lot of times the products in thrift stores too, they've been through this wear, and if they're still in good condition, that means they are really quality products. Quality products don't need to be name brand or luxury. Just think quality over the actual label, and you'll probably end up saving a lot of money. And hopefully you'll just be overall less concerned with this image that you're trying to create. Next one is to stop expecting people to read your mind. Now, communication is basically the number one thing to make any relationship a good one. This is all about balance. You know, you want to be able to speak your mind, but of course do it in more polite ways. This is something that applies to any relationship, friends, significant others, family. Opening up and saying what you need or what you maybe don't like about a certain person is a really hard thing to do. You know, if it's like something about yourself where you're feeling like you need help from them, you don't want to come off as needy or like you can't handle things on your own. And if it's more of a concern with them, say a habit of theirs that you don't really appreciate, then you don't want to come off as rude and like you're too nitpicky about things. But honestly, just say the things you need to say. Thinking about me and my boyfriend, we've been together for a good amount of time, almost over 6 years already, and I think that's a really important quality that we both have, is that we're pretty blunt in a lot of ways, and we will just say things that bother us. And of course, that's something that develops over time with a relationship. So hopefully you're at that stage with the most important people in your life. Yeah, you should just feel comfortable saying what's bothering you and what you need help with. It's just a lot easier to be straight up with people. This one's just really important because I think trying to fix problems instead of just letting them snowball into greater problems is so important to make relationships last and make them healthy ones. I think a lot of breakups can sometimes occur prematurely, in my own opinion. Like, people have these conflicts with their partner and they don't necessarily try to make the full effort to actually resolve them. They'll just let that issue be the ending factor to do the breakup. Always, like with any relationship, if there's struggles going on, try to talk about it first and give it like an honest go. You know, if the conversation doesn't end well and comes into more of an argument, let that settle for the day. You know, I guess maybe both parties aren't ready for that conversation. Give it a little time and like bring it back. And of course, you can only try so much if it's obviously not working out and the other party is not being super receptive of what you're trying to say, then at that point, I think that's where you can maybe cut off certain relationships. But it's always worth it to make the honest effort and try your best to have those tough conversations that are what will really bring the relationship forward and make it healthier and stronger. Yeah, just think about that. No one out there can read minds. Maybe some people are better at picking up social cues, but generally we all need help, and it's good to just be clear with what you're feeling. And my final habit to stop doing in this year is to stop caring about the future. Now, I feel like the future is just this biggest stressor in pretty much everyone's life. I myself at least think about it a lot. What am I gonna do for work? How am I going to move out of my parents' house? Financial things. I think it's just so important to live in the present and focus on the present and use these things you're doing at the moment to work towards your future, but don't do it at the point of sacrificing things you have at the moment. I think a lot of us really push ourselves in certain years, like college, for example, taking tons of classes, also working, trying to save money and plan for the future. It's just like a very stressful era, and I think a lot of people start to prioritize the future over the now. You're worried so much about working hard, and that's like your sole focus, and you neglect things about your own health and all of that. And then if you're not doing well physically or mentally, that's not going to translate so greatly into your career or relationships in the future. That's kind of the concept I'm trying to get across, that like even if you have these goals you want to achieve later down the line, it shouldn't distract from the things you need to do continuously to actually maintain yourself as a person to later maybe reach those goals. And just kind of not fixating so much on certain aspirations. A lot of things externally and internally can change in just a short amount of time. So if things don't work out in the future, it won't be such a disappointment. It'll just be a certain pivoting point. So just having those lower expectations, or not necessarily lower, but just like different expectations, being open to anything happening. If something is really stressing you out right now and you keep telling yourself like, oh, I have to do this because I want to achieve this in this many years, that's not really a healthy approach. I think it's really important to value yourself at this moment. Don't think of it as like this pain right now is only temporary and it's going to be worth it later down the line. I don't think any pain is worth it, and you should hopefully be very happy and comfortable at whatever stage you're at. We can value work and school and all these responsibilities so much, but with any of these responsibilities, it's great to do, but if it's harming your relationships or just like really draining you and not being a positive overall experience, we should always be open to changing our path a little bit. And I think the idea of struggling in the now to get somewhere better in the future is so toxic. And while yes, hard work's very important, I'm not saying we should just give up on our goals because they're too hard to achieve. It's just about finding that balance. Try not to let your worth be tied to these certain accomplishments. Feel happy and do what makes you happy in the now. Couple that with hard work so you can be happy in the future too and be proud of yourself. But if that hard work is sometimes taking away from things like your relationships or mental health or even physical health, then that's kind of not the best state to be, in my opinion. So I guess what I'm trying to say is focus both on the present and the future, and don't just let the present take a back seat while you're focusing on these things you want later down the line, because your happiness at every stage is so important. Live in the present as much as you can and worry about the future when it comes. So that brings me to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment down below anything you found really useful, maybe your favorite tip, or other things you personally want to leave in the past. I hope this will help you reflect a little bit. Also, like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you want to hear more from me. So nice having you here today. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!